The MLS Combine has come to an end. It's time to draft. Gareth Wheeler with you. This is your Toronto FC HQ. And yes, the MLS SuperDraft is on tap from Los Angeles, California, 3 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. The question is, what will Toronto FC do? They have the 21st overall draft pick, and this is the 4th draft under the tutelage or the watchful eye of Tim Bezbatchenko. Now, the Toronto FC general manager has done well over his 3 previous drafts, adding important players to this TFC squad. 3 years ago, in his first MLS SuperDraft, he picked up Nick Hagglund, 10th overall. And of course, Nick has rounded into an important player for Toronto FC, especially playing a critical role on their run to the MLS Cup final this past season. Another important player is Alex Bono, a backup goalkeeper who rose to prominence as Clint Irwin was out for 12 weeks with an injury. He's a good player for the current period of time as well for the future. And in last SuperDraft, it was deemed a little bit of a reach in 2016. Tsubasa Endoh at number 9. Tsubasa Endoh did play a lot early in the season and shows his merits going forward as a young player in this very competitive TFC squad. So the future's bright for all 3 players. At pick number 21, it's a little bit deeper than previous years. In fact, the 21st pick in previous years would have been in the 2nd round with the 2 expansion teams coming in. TFC is pushed late due to their success, but there are still players that can contribute over the short term and long term to this franchise. Here is the general manager, Tim Bezbatchenko.
You know, the last few years, I feel like the talent ebbs and flows with each draft. I thought last year's draft was one of the deepest and best drafts in the last 5 or 6 years. I don't think this draft class is quite to that level, but there's always gems, there's always contributors, there's always ways to find talent. Some of that has to do with each team's current roster and how they're capable of giving that player an opportunity. Through our USL setup, as well as our, some of the times in the roster or in the schedule when there's some congestion. I do feel like the players will get an opportunity to play at TFC.
The 2016 MLS SuperDraft was a class led by Jack Harrison of New York City FC, an outstanding rookie campaign, and the Philadelphia Union did very well in the first round as well, picking up Keegan Roseberry and striker Fabian Herbers. The question is, will there be players where Toronto FC is drafting that can contribute to this team? In previous years, well, back in 2015, Christian Roldan, who we saw right here in Toronto for the Seattle Sounders, was drafted 15th overall, and he played such a critical role in Seattle's run to the MLS Cup final. And even if you want to flip back 2 years ago, Tommy McNamara was drafted 20th overall. Of course, now a big-time player with New York City FC. So there are players that you can get late. If you're looking for Toronto FC, and Tim Bezbatchenko says he wants to draft the best player available, but due to this offseason and players that Toronto FC has lost, there are clear needs within this team, namely at center back, a backup right back, as well as potentially in the midfield as well. Of course, Will Johnson is left. He's now gone on to Orlando City. Mark Bloom picked up in the expansion draft, and Josh Williams has gone on to Columbus, so there are spots up for grabs. And if you're looking at names of players who may be available at those positions, at the center back position with Toronto FC playing with 3 center halves, they're going to need to add to this position. Now, Miles Robinson of Syracuse is by far and away the top center back in this draft. He will not be available, but there are some intriguing names who may be available for Toronto FC. At center back, 3 particular names come to mind. Francis De Vries is a classy player out of the back, and he's left-footed naturally. The product of St. Francis could be a good fit for this Toronto FC team if they want to add that left-sided center half position. Also at center back, Brian Nana-Sinkam out of Stanford. He's a composed, physically impressive player that can step right in and contribute. Finally, Jakub Nerwinski out of UConn is a physical force. He's had a very good combine and could be a player that's available at the end of the first round. At the right back position, if you're looking for a player that can get forward in attack, maybe you want to convert a wing player, a midfield player, and Daniel Johnson has turned many heads over the course of the combine. He's naturally a wing player, a midfield player, but if you can somehow, some way convert him into a right fullback or wingback player, he could be an intriguing name to follow. Regan Dunk out of Denver is also a name that has impressed and may be a good fit at that position. There's all kinds of Canadian content available as well. And Toronto FC, well, they have a lot of draft picks, 7 overall, 1 in the first round at 21st pick overall, 2 in the second round, 2 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. So there could be some wheeling and dealing if Tim Bezbatchenko and company want to land players who fit their image, and especially if you want to add some more Canadian content to the squad. 3 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Follow along using the hashtag TFC Live. Toronto FC will have you covered all day long. And while you're at torontofc.ca, the schedule was released Thursday as well. Check out the very important dates for this upcoming 2017 season.